This conference will now be recorded.
Commission meeting of October 17. We will begin with the call to order and the roll call.
Member Ferber?
Here.
Member Ray?
Here.
Vice Chair Hutchins?
Here.
Member Varga?
Here.
And Chair Carey.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now open the floor for public comment.
Unrelated to the project, I assume.
Yeah, and there'll be a public comment time, so this is non-project public comment.
Terry Brown, Harvard Drive South. There's nothing in the record, nothing online that indicates that this meeting is a rescheduled meeting because the meeting last month had to be canceled. David was the chair. I don't know if you were actually a chair at that time since there was no meeting. So I would like to have the record, I'm sure that Kelly would comply, to show that this is a rescheduled meeting, that it cost the town thousands of dollars in fees for the professional people that were here, because one member didn't show up and there was not a quorum, so the meeting couldn't go forward. And all these folks were here. So if we could somehow figure out where that goes in the record, so that someone searching the public record is aware of that fact. Is that correct?
It would be in the minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The other thing I just also discovered from Kelly is that at number 20 Ocean Avenue is one of those big houses being built there. There's a bunch of them being built there. That 3 trees on town property were removed. And they got a permit and they got approval from the building official to remove town property from town property. Isn't that what you just told me?
No, they received administrative approval because it was on the site plan that was approved.
Pardon me again? It's town property. You approved it?
Yes, tree permits are approved by the administrative official.
So you didn't come back to the commission, either this board or the town commission, to grant permission to remove town property. Now, what are they going to be replaced with?
Those trees were on the site plan as approved by this board to be removed. That discussion would have been held.
Was anyone aware of that? That town property, trees that are owned by the town, not private property,
Yes.
were removed.
Gary, I think we talked about that when that thing came up.
Okay. The reason why they had them removed is they want to be able to see the front door from Ocean Avenue.
Actually, no, it's because they're relocating the driveway.
And not anywhere near the driveway.
They're relocating the driveway.
I just feel like that's not a proper procedure. It should work differently when it's town property. Someone ought to tell the public that you're removing trees for private property.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that have comment that they'd like to make at this time on items other than agenda items? Hearing none, we close public comment. Next agenda item is the approval of the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes, the March 2023 minutes and the April 17 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Are there any comments or corrections? Okay, we'll take it in order. Do we have a motion to approve the March 2023 minutes?
I move to approve.
We have a second. Okay, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the April 17, 2023 minutes, a motion to approve?
I move to approve the April minutes.
Approve.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Our next item is the quasi judicial hearing for 32 Ocean Avenue. Because of the quasi judicial proceedings, we have to follow an order, and I'll be a little scripted at this point. First, the town clerk's going to read the agenda item and title as indicated.
This is an application submitted by IMML Vincelon Marcel Inc. as owners of 32 Ocean View Drive, Ocean Ridge, Florida, 33435, requesting a land development permit for the provisions of the Land Development Code, Chapter 63, General Administrative Provisions, Article 4, Site Plan Review Procedures, Section 63-56, Development Plan Review, to permit the construction of a new two-story family home that will consist of 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, with 1-car garage, pool, covered porch, and uncovered balcony.
All right, we call the proceedings for this item on to order. At this time, any ex parte communication should either be disclosed or identified, identifying the subject of the communication and the identity of the persons and groups with whom the communication took place. Are there any of the members here that had any communication outside of this meeting with anyone on this topic?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. We will then proceed with the hearing on this matter. Town clerk, will you please swear in the witnesses?
Will anyone wishing to speak on this item please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
When you are called forward, please state your name and address clearly for the record and whether or not you have been sworn in. Please speak directly into the microphone.
We'll now proceed with the town staff, starting with the town planner, Corey.
Good morning, Chair, board members, Corey O'Gorman, Town Planner. This is a development plan review for the new single-family home at 32 Ocean View Drive. It is within the Ocean View Special Area. It is a smaller lot than you typically see. The Ocean View Special Area provides some accommodation for smaller lots, including reduced setbacks, an increased floor area ratio, and that's reflected in the staff report as well as on the plans for this project. The recommendation from staff is approval with the conditions from the town engineer and subject to your review in accordance with the development plan review process. I'm happy to answer any questions if I can, and that concludes my report. Yes, sir.
Yes, I've looked at this site personally, and it appears that it's a single property. However, when we're looking at it, it's listed as Lot 6 and Lot 7. I just want to make sure that legally that this can be done. I mean, I know, I hope it can be done.
Yes, sir, it's a legal lot of record, and it can be done on that single lot. Yes, sir.
Because currently it shows a single number for that property, I think, or it did.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question along the same lines that came up. I'm not as familiar with the Ocean View Special District as the regular district, so this may be a question also for the town attorney. What is the minimum lot size in Ocean View?
I don't know if that, offhand, I'll figure it out.
Because I know that there were special adjustments that were made, and I want to make sure that the dividing of this lot didn't circumvent the intent of what Ocean View was all about.
The minimum lot area in the Ocean View Special Area is 3,250 square feet.
So this hits exactly at the minimum. And so the dividing of this lot didn't violate any of the requirements of Ocean View, is that?
No, sir.
Okay. So there are, on the same street, there are other 100-foot lots, there's a 150-foot lot. So over time, within our codes, those lots could be pared down to being 50-foot lots within the parameters of our code. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, within the scope of the Ocean View Special District minimum requirements. Yes, sir.
And Kirsty, you're nodding your head.
Yes.
3250 50-foot lot was always anticipated as an acceptable lot.
That's correct. The Ocean View Special Area is an overlay that recognizes the smaller lots in that area. So yes, you are correct that if there's someone who has a larger lot in this area, could potentially subdivide it as long as it meets the minimum requirements.
Okay. This is important because the character of this neighborhood is going to change over time if that's the case. And this is maybe the first example of what the new look of what Ocean View could be, but it's quite a shift in the character of what I would call an old Florida neighborhood right now.
Yes, now, let me make one clarification. The scope set forth in section 64-3 clarifies that if there are legal lots of record as of October 4th of 1999. So going forward from 1999, if someone were to subdivide it within that, they may not be a legal lot of record, even though technically they may meet the parameters.
Okay, so an existing 100-foot lot cannot be made into
Cannot
250s.
subdivide.
So do we know that this lot was divided?
Let me just say, we always have to research every lot because we've got to go back to look at when was this a legal lot of record. And so sometimes what has happened is it was a legal lot of record back in like the 60s or 70s. And then at some point, someone joined them to create a bigger lot, built on it. But then the question always becomes, what if they want to go back and re-subdivide it? So we always, Mr. Gorman and myself, we have to go back and research whenever this issue comes up to determine, was it a legal lot of record as of the date set forth in the code? Because this also comes up with non-conforming lots in other areas, and we always have to do that research. And so it's a bit of a case-by-case basis.
So when it says that it's a legal lot of record in 1999, if it was joined, if two lots had been joined together and a house built on two lots at that time, is it dividable?
That's the question.
And do we know,
I don't
the history on?
necessarily answer it because, you can go to the property appraisers and get one PCN and join lots without coming to the town and getting the town's approval. And you may not do a unity of title, it just depends. Likewise, you can subdivide lots, get a PCN from the property appraiser, and sometimes the town may not know.
But that doesn't mean it's conforming at that point.
Absolutely, a
And
PCN.
we're not authorized here to approve non-conforming.
Correct, and just getting a parcel control number, it means nothing. It's just really for tax purposes. So we have to, again, look at it on a case-by-case basis and look at what's in the code and do the research.
So
it's difficult to give a blanket answer.
Okay, so I think you've done a nice job on a blanket answer. The question is now, this specific one, what was its status on the date that it mattered?
This was a platted lot. There were two separate platted lots. I don't know the background on PCN, but they were two separate platted lots at the time.
As of the date that was referenced?
Yes.
Okay.
There's one single home.
So you'll look closely at that every time that
Every time.
one of these comes in. And it just won't even come before us
Correct.
unless it meets that criteria.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if it's non-conforming, then our recommendation is they will have to get a variance before we would let them come here.
And that's Board of
Development
Adjustments,
review. Correct.
Can I
Thanks.
just throw something on the good side of this here? This little house here, what we call little, not, but it's a smaller house than we normally have, is that if you have more green space, and I thought the town likes more green space, so now you have green space in between each one of these little lots. You have you have a little bit more green space. If you have one connected house, this whole section in the middle wouldn't have green space there between the two.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more green space on
Yeah.
it. So
It-
it's really
it-
not the worst thing in the world.
And I want the applicant to know, this discussion is not specifically about yours, but it's understanding how we deal with Ocean View and changes in the future, but we want to make sure that they apply. Excuse me, could you step out?
Yeah.
That's not acceptable in the meeting. Thank you. Any other questions for Corey on his report? Okay. The next report will be from the building official.
On this issue, I have no comments.
Okay, and you've reviewed the plan
Yes.
and it's meets all of the codes.
Manny's reviewed it. So,
All right.
Wait, Randy Blash, zoning officer for town of Ocean Ridge. But the building official is saying that a preliminary review was done by him just to look at in general. I, in essence, then went and did the calculations, which basically met the requirements that are in our ordinances. Height, floor area reach, that sort of stuff.
Anything specifically you want to point out on your report, Manny?
Not at this time. I can't recollect anything specifically, other than it's a nice looking home.
Might I request that this gentleman, because I think.
That's Michael Christopher.
Yeah, that he step forward so we really understand who you are and everything. Thank you, Michael.
good morning, Mike Christopher, your intern or acting building official.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let me say, we were here a long time ago, and we're MIA for a few years, but now we're back. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Okay, the next staff report will come from the town engineer.
Hello, Tara Bamber, town engineer, engineering group. The project meets the town's drainage code with minor comments that'll be addressed during building.
And drainage is good there?
The drainage is good. We had to like go back and forth a little bit, but yeah, we got it in that little lot. We made it work.
All right. Thank you. At this time, if there's any members of the public who have a comment that they'd like to make about this project specific, please step forward. Mr. Brown.
Terry Brown, Harvard Ave South. I just wanted to give you a little bit of history. The special section that you're talking about between Briny Breezes and Tropical was not always part of the town. The overlay came in after it was annexed into the town, when Briny Breezes incorporated into a town and got mad at the county. The county said, well, we don't want this section either. And the Ocean Ridge Commission agreed to annex it as is. So that's why you see this kind of oddball shape of stuff in there and real densely packed structures. So that's what happened. But then the overlay came in 99, is that right? And then they did some manipulation with the code to be sure that everything was good. As far as the draining goes, the drain from this property will go down to 2 catch basins that go underground to Tropical. So the drainage on Tropical, this development will make it worse because it's taken up all of the lot, basically most of the lot. So the water that used to be retained on a vacant lot will now go down the street into the catch basins and over to Tropical and hope that the pump works.
Yeah, but presumably Tropical was engineered to take the the drainage.
When the pumps work, it works. But you can talk to the residents many years after the pump was installed and it doesn't work. Some electrical thing goes bad, something goes bad, and they're supposed to pump it over here to the corner at Woolbright Road and A1A where there's a retention area.
Thank you for the background. Any other public comment, please?
I'll speak to the drainage.
Would please
Julia
come to the
Steer.
mic and identify yourself. Thank you.
Julia Steer, I live at 32 Ocean View Drive. And we purchased our home in 1999, October, the day Hurricane Irene came through, 15 inches of water that day. And I will tell you that the street flooded up into our property line.
Wow.
The rest of the street flooded into the homes. Thank you.
Any other comment about the proposal?
Not right now.
Thank you. Sir,
Yes.
you need to come to the mic and identify yourself.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
understand that. My name is Richard Steer. I live at 40 Ocean View Drive, have for the last 23 years. My question concerns the posting of the sign for the variance from the health department. When I called the town yesterday, they said there was no such sign, just the yellow sign that you had installed.
But I saw the sign yesterday that you're talking about, but
Okay, so I'd like to understand what that's about in terms of the property size, the septic system, and the health department's involvement.
I don't know the source of where that sign came from.
Okay.
It's County Health Department.
The county health,
They have a septic tank engineer over there that reviews everything. So call them up. Find
So
out.
it's not a town issue, it's a health
the
department.
septic review is done by the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just say something, I've had to do these septic, these variances before, and it just comes into play of how you're fitting everything into the lot. So it's not that you're gonna have a bad septic or something like that, it's just that they have to make, you want to put it under something or, in some area. So it's not a big, it's pretty normal there to have that.
Thank you.
Good
Good
morning, everyone. Matthew Fronzalio. I live at 25 Ocean View. And like probably a few people over here that are on Ocean View, one of the concerns is not necessarily that the septic is a problem, but there's only one septic on that plot of land right now. And we all seem to keep addressing 32 Ocean and ignoring what seems to be 34 Ocean, and there's no septic on there. And any of the variances that seem to be done don't seem to include that plot of land right now. As long as I've been here, it's been a single family home that was on that piece of land. There was a little cottage in the back from what my neighbor Pam was telling me. Excuse me. And also she has a little concern. She can't be here today, but she asked me to mention a few notes for her. She said that the lot used to be 6,500 square feet of grass that would absorb the rain, and now the lot has been divided into two 50-foot lots, presumably two houses. And concerned where the rainwater will go, because that plans for the house are going to cover over 50% of the property. The street drain that is located between 24 and 26 Ocean View carries the rainwater, as I think this gentleman said, the tropical, the holding tank before being pumped out, but it's hardly adequate now. And could somebody address that? Like, I know that the young lady over there had said that, oh yeah, drainage is good. But I don't really know what that means, and I live right across the street from it. So, would anyone explain to me what that means?
If I could speak, I would say that we have, when we want to build a house here in Ocean Ridge, the older houses have no drainage system in them. They have no catchment, they have no basins, they have no exfiltration underground. When you want to build a new house, you have to basically retain X amount of your rainwater. I'm not sure what it is, but you're actually retaining, instead of older houses where the rainage is going into the streets, you're actually catching it, putting it into basins, or you're putting into swales that are holding the water. So I think technically we hold the water back better now than we did before, because before some house just shooting right at the other house. But I mean, Tara could really speak to it there, because she's the drainage engineer.
Tara, is there anything to add?
He's correct.
He wants to be comfortable that it's not going to be any worse than it is today.
Well, I mean,
It's better.
if anyone drives around Ocean Ridge, you notice after it rains, certain areas tend to be more flooded than others, and Ocean View, of course, is one of those areas.
So, Mr. Vargas is correct. We require 1 inch of the first inch of runoff to be held on the site. So this property, like it is a small property, but we have inlets and we have exfiltration trench, so that takes that first inch and puts it underground, basically. We don't do a pre versus post here because,
I don't know what that means.
okay, so we don't look at your condition of what's there right now comparing to what is going to be. So if it's all pervious grass area, there is a difference. But if we did that for these lots, then nobody could build anything.
I'm not opposed to that.
You're asking the right questions. And anybody that lives here in Ocean Ridge knows about our drainage issues, so.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, putting a house that size, I know it's a pretty little house and it doesn't quite fit into the scope of the neighborhood at the moment. But doubling that and putting another house next to it, which I'm assuming, since it's not just going to be a big yard for that house at 32, that construction is going to be going on for more than 1 year, more than 2 years, because I would imagine that it's just going to piggyback and go on to the next property. So I just want to make sure that the height, I believe, is 36 feet, which is what Ocean Ridge allows.
No, it's not quite that high.
The height of the house?
What's the height on this?
That escapes me right now. It's 2 stories, so we know it's not, it can't go any higher than 36 feet.
It's in the report.
26.4 is the proposed height for this house.
All right.
Yeah.
And
So
26 foot. So
now
26.
understand that's not from the street level, that's from the.
Right.
Finished floor.
From the finished floor, so you have another 9 feet above sea level for the finished floor start. So it'll be tall.
Right. Will the property, would the ground itself be raised before the house is placed on it?
They've just stepped down, they're gonna be stepping down, like the front door is like way up here, they wouldn't be able to drive up from whatever the street level is to the house, so the garage, everything's stepped down in the front of the house here.
But for the property itself, where the land is right now, will that be built up at all before the house is actually constructed?
He's talking about the base level.
Yeah, that's another question for
It's
Tara.
gonna be at 8 feet, the proposed base flood, at 8 feet, and the finished floor will be at 9, so.
So I don't know. how to put
Do we know the
that.
elevation now?
Mr. Chair,
Foundation will be at 9 feet?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
perhaps we could allow the applicant to
Yeah,
make its
that'd be good.
presentation
Yeah.
and then maybe follow up with more public comment, because that.
terrific,
Yeah.
terrific, thank you, because we can use staff to answer questions, but it's not
And I see
good
we're walking
for
down
us as a
the
board to be answering questions. It puts us in an awkward position as both okay, so thank you, and I'll give you an opportunity afterwards to come back if there's questions from the.
Thank you.
So at this time, if there's anything else from staff that needs to be said, and we can come back after the applicants come forward. So now the applicant should make their presentation and possibly answer some of these questions. Thank you. Who's speaking for the applicant?
Good morning. I'm John Reed, One West Camino Real.
Hi, good morning. My name is Andrea Biscovich, and I work with.
We both work with JSR Design Group, and kind of to just jump into, we're trying to build, originally we built the whole house much lower. And then as we submitted for preliminary, we found out the new FEMA requirements for Ocean Ridge were another 4 feet higher. So we did have to bring up the living space up to 9 feet. We were able to keep the garage lower because our idea was to keep it as flat as possible, meaning the landscape and the garage. So instead of And we actually looked at bringing the house up to what we'd have to do to have a single step from the garage into the house. And it would have been about, I think it was close to 45-degree slope driveway, which would not obviously work. So what we ended up doing is keeping everything low on the outside. And if you can see, or I don't know if you're able to show the floor plan, but we've got about 8 steps up to the front door in order to keep the land low, because once again, if we built the whole land up high, it'd be very hard. I mean, we could retain that 1 inch of water, but it would not do well with the neighbors, up about 5 feet high above where their land is. So we did keep that low. It did hinder some of our square footage because we had to count for all the steps and all of that. But in order for the yard to work at all, we wanted to try to keep that as low as possible. And then to kind of jumping into, we went back and forth with our client about doing 1 house versus 2 houses. Is it Stephen?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little late. You're exactly right. In terms of if we did the 1-story, we looked at basically the 2 10-foot side setbacks would have been built upon. So that's 20 foot of landscape that would have been less for a single story house. The house is not large. It's 1,600 and a little over 1,600 square feet total.
Right, including garage and covered porches.
Correct. So, and so what we tried to do, yes, the intention is to have 2 houses on here. They wanted to do 1 at a time, which to me was a little odd, but I think it was for helping to set up things. But kind of the intention are these to go back to back, meaning almost a mirror of each other. We're going to change the design a little bit, but the idea was to have it a little more, we had to cover porches and a little more open balconies on the outside. So, adjacent to the neighbor. So as the taller structures, I'm going to say the more less penetration sides would be actually matching each other, and try to open it up as much as possible to the adjacent neighbors, because it is a different context and scale. So we try to open it up to reduce as much as possible, especially after we had to raise it 4 or 5 feet to meet the new FEMA requirements. And then I guess any other questions or?
I just,
Go ahead, please.
if I can say, I do see that's why I didn't know the exact, but I see all these steps coming down. And, for me, I think it's a pretty cute house here. And, fits into our Ocean Ridge plan of that area, so I don't see a problem with it. I also wanted to say I'm sorry for not making this last meeting. I called around. Hope you got the message. There was a scheduling glitch there, and I apologize for all the time wasted. I apologize. Anyway, I see we're going way down. If you look at the front door of the house and you look at the garage, you see it's, they're down pretty low to the street level there. So, I don't see it.
Thank you.
My comment.
Dave, comments?
Yeah, I like the look of the house. Whatever questions I had was, is there going to be a second house built on the lot or on the original lot? And you've answered that for me. But I think it's a pretty good solution for the space you're using. And the town's changing. We were bungalows once, and the property's worth a lot, and we can see where it's all going to go. So, and I don't want us to go back. If somebody has a piece of property that they can build under the existing code, I'm all for it. Too many variances, and maybe not so much. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sydney.
I have a question. Sorry, I forget your name. Yes. Your question to the septic on both lots. And I know it's a hypothetical situation because there's no septic there, but under our code and under just for purposes of them being far enough apart, can you fit 2 septic tanks on that lot?
Yeah,
Yeah, so the septic.
Can you use the mic, please?
Yes, the septic was calculated for that one lot only.
Okay,
And so whatever's going under that lot is calculated for that. The same thing will happen with the second lot.
okay,
I think the gentleman had a question about a variance because it is reviewed by the health department. It has already been submitted and the variance has been approved.
okay.
And so we have the letter from the health department that that variance has been approved. And what happens is because of the size of the lot, it's a specialty system that they use for the filtration.
And so I can speak to that a little bit because we have the specialty. We have a very similar looking house on a small street with a small lot. So we have the Hoot system.
Yep.
And I've learned way more than I ever expected to know about septic systems. So I do think that to answer your question, I'm not an expert, but I do think it helps with drainage. It has the whole backyard as a drainage field. And like when it rains at our house, it soaks up everything. It's kind of wild. But I think that that's why they are proposing this small septic system. But my question was just that they could be that close to each other because they do require a giant drain field.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all on this lot. everything
Yes.
is.
But I'm just saying when they go to build on the second lot,
They
just
should
to
be
make
able
sure,
to
because they'll need a
Because
septic.
we take this, the setbacks from the property line,
Okay,
so it will need
be
to
from the
be,
other
yes,
side.
from
Cool.
the other side.
That was my question was about the septics as well. So I think that makes sense. Thanks.
Anything else?
That's it.
Shields?
We note here the updated FEMA maps creating a lot of challenges. You guys pointed out, we're seeing it. I'm seeing a house a block away from me being built right now. It's really, I could see something like this extremely challenging, right? Because the base today, it looks like the survey is about 4.5 feet is the base level of to answer the gentleman's question. And where you're going to be today, the finished floor elevation is what? 9. So just give that gentleman's 4.5 feet differential, right? And you are going to have to build a lot up, right?
Yes.
But have
The lot, not as much. We're doing it more with the house.
with the house, okay, yeah. But it's going to be challenging. They keep doing this. They keep raising these standards, guys. It's going to be
Yeah,
very
so
challenging to
I
build
have
houses.
some houses right now in Delray where,
Yeah.
it's all retaining walls.
Yeah.
Everything's retaining walls and then in City of Boca, you can't have a wall higher than 6 feet from 3 feet of each side to the neighbor. So I have some walls that are about 2 feet high as their privacy wall because they're up so high. And then there's the issue of safeguards.
Yeah.
So then we have to come and do railings. We have to, and so it's a variance. It's like we can't meet one or the other.
Okay. Can you talk about the landscaping a bit?
Have the landscape architect.
You all good? Because I know our codes are not very stringent on landscaping. It's one of the things on our plans to go forward with. But to my eye here, this is very minimalist. And
Yes.
we have been seeing, and Stephen's a builder, he knows that he doesn't come in at the minimum with his landscape plans because we expect, protection for the neighbors, for views from the street. So can you first direct us to the plan page, which is LP1 of 1, is that right?
LP1, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't have my plan.
We had it last time in the set and it disappeared.
Yeah, we had the last time,
Yeah.
so it's not today. Anyways, yes, we have, the code is not very stringent, and I can confirm because I work with many cities. And which was good because it was already difficult to provide really landscaping and especially not so much with trees because the requirements are very low, but to provide hedges and a little bit of screen and privacy. We went back and forth with the engineer because you have so many elements, like most part of the lot has to be free of everything apart salt. So answering to the question of regarding the water, look, all the part north, west, and half of the east side is salt and nothing else. So we only tried to plant something in front to provide privacy, but also to allow the drainage and a lot of vegetation that initially we planned we had to remove because of the roots, potential root problems. Anyway, I think it's nice. It came out, it will be a nice project.
One of the things I'm seeing here is that this is a neighborhood mostly of one-story homes, and this is a two-story home. Granted, you may be building a second two-story home next to it, but currently, although the architect did some things to make these not blank walls on either side, it's still a mass on both the west and the east elevations that it would be nice to have broken up. We've seen some of these, I'll call them spindly palms that, for lack of knowing the term, but planted up against the side of these flat elevations to break it up.
Skinny,
Yeah,
yes.
and it seems like something like that's needed here.
Look, we have a coconut palm on the left side.
Yeah.
And we had another one or even two at the beginning on the right side. So it was nice, like framing, and coconut palm with all these huge fronds, it gives this tropical feeling. But we have the drainage that was conflicting with the palms, and on the right side we have to remove them. There's no way to find
So on this west elevation here, there's nothing that you can do to break up that
on the east.
solid wall.
On the east, on the west you have.
Yeah, you have some things on, but okay, facing to the east where the
That's
drain field is there room to put some things in between the foundation and the drain field?
No.
No, you have to have some distances, and we, as I told you, went back and forth with the engineer. I have to remove some very small palms, like touch palms, that are native, and it's gives this tropical feeling. You see all that hatched area, that it's drainage, and also there are pipes that bring water to the house, connect to the main water. And I don't know, I can put a planter in front of the porch and try to grow a skinny palm on the right side, but I wish we could have another coconut palm.
Okay.
Because we have also coconut palms there already there, so we would just relocate the existing.
I know there's a lot of limitations on this site.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that the applicant understood that we expect more than our minimums here, and that it should be, you should do as much as you can. And we'll leave that to you to try to, if you could do some more here, because this is the neighborhood.
I put even vines wherever they were, that was possible, and in one point I had even to take them off in front because there is a pipe. So I left only one on a corner on the right because that was the only point where I didn't have the pipe. So I can add some planters, like planters pots.
Yeah, well, we
So
just don't want
really-
this to be, our weak landscape code to be an opportunity
No.
to save some money, because this is not about money, this is about a neighborhood.
Look, you open the door with me because I'm not for the meaning and code, and I love what I do, so I try to do always the best I can. But in this place, it's really, really challenging, really challenging. And I have to like take off. I started with a lot more.
Any other questions from commissioners about the landscaping? All right, thank you very much. Thanks for explaining it.
Thank you.
Okay. We may have something for the applicant, but I wanted to go to Corey. As I recall, our code requires one parking space per bedroom, regardless of how that bedroom is labeled on the plan. Is that correct?
Yes, the parking code requires one parking space per bedroom or room that could qualify as a bedroom.
So that in this plan, we have a den that could qualify as a bedroom. It's got egress marked, it has a closet, it has a closing door. So we're short of a parking space here as I'm seeing it. And it doesn't seem to be hard to solve. They just need to widen the driveway and have room for 2 cars in the driveway. Is that right?
Actually, for lots less than 10,000 square feet, in districts other than the RSF and RSE, only one off-street parking space is required.
Yeah, but that's different than our requirement for a space per bedroom.
It's in the same section of the code. You're correct that the code requires one parking space per bedroom. However, in that same section of the code, it says for single and 2-family dwellings on existing lots less than 10,000 square feet in area that are located in zoning districts other than RSF and RSE, only one off-street parking space shall be required.
Okay.
So they do comply with the parking requirements.
And in going to this neighborhood yesterday, off-street parking is clearly an issue. And unless I'm as a non-engineer missing something here, it shouldn't be hard to widen that driveway. It almost looks like all you got to do is take out a little bit of landscaping. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They're on the west side and make enough room for 2 spaces there. Because we all know the reality of South Florida living. There's never enough storage. This garage is going to be a storeroom. It's not going to be a parking spot. And these people are going to need 2 parking spaces, whoever buys this home. And we're not doing our job to follow the detail of the code and miss the importance of having the space. So can the applicants step forward and see if I'm off base here? It's simply, is there any reason why you can't?
With all due respect, you're like my clients. Can we get 50 pounds of sand in a 10-pound sack?
Okay.
I can stretch it to 15 pounds sometimes, but it's, once again, like you said, just make the driveway bigger.
Right.
As long as they're okay with the drainage not working and just going straight onto the street.
Well, it's got to meet the
And
drainage
so
codes.
That's where this thing's been dissected. So we would love to have a little bit bigger driveway, but my landscape architect would kill me. She was not happy with anything we had to give her. So, so when she was up here, she was biting her tongue and not throwing me under the bus too much. So, so we'd love to widen that, but the landscape would get hurt, the drainage would get hurt.
So we just heard from Corey, we don't have to absolutely meet 3 spaces here according to our code, which means that the size of the driveway wouldn't have to meet our dimensions requirements for 2 parking spaces according to code.
Correct.
But can you make it so that 2 cars will fit there? Even though it doesn't meet our code requirement for 2, which is not necessary.
If you gave us a variance for drainage and landscape.
I don't think we're going to do that.
you wouldn't do that. So I guess that answers that question in terms of, we couldn't, if we just ran it to the side, nothing would.
That amount of pavers that you have there in the driveway, again, to my novice eye,
2 small cars could fit on there. Small. You have the, I can't see.
I see the width of the garage door, so I could kind of can scale that.
It's 18 feet, so.
18, 13 and 4.
So where's the second car gonna go? Because it isn't gonna go
It's
into
under
garage.
18 feet.
There, 2 could actually fit on the driveway. You see, it doesn't make it all the way to the street on this section.
Yes,
But a
that's-
car could pull on, but 18 feet, I mean, that's a 2.9.
I mean, that's what I'm asking is, can the pavers be taken out to the street so that, not that they're widened, but just so that they're taken out to the street so that 2 cars could pull in? Shields, you have.
I think you're thinking in the 4-8 section, that one paver. Is that what you're talking about?
All the way,
Just that one paver.
Yeah, just right there by the street.
Yes. 4'8" of paver. Landscape.
It's a,
There's a fence and we needed landscape in front of it. So we
I'm sorry, you have to speak to the microphone.
Sorry. The reason there's landscape there was on the other side, there's a fence and the city requires landscape in front of that. So we were trying to match it so that the whole front of the house would have that. But I don't think there's a reason why we couldn't run it all the way to the street. If the town's okay with it.
So-
And remove those hedges.
I checked with
over that area.
their landscape.
I think square footage.
I checked their landscape, you might be covering.
I'm sorry, you must think I'm nuts because it was, a moment ago, I was asking for more landscape and then I'm saying.
One thing, I lived for over 20 years in Rome, in Italy, so for me, this is like, you just do a little maneuver and it doesn't compromise going inside or getting out of the driveway with the car. The other thing I forgot to mention, if you look at the property line, 2 or 3 feet were already given to the right of way to the street. So that's additional space that was taken away from my landscaping and the lot in general. I don't know. This question of aesthetics also. Probably if we remove this part of the vegetation, we need to move the triangle, visibility triangle. So my hedge on that side can't be high anymore and can't provide the.
We're not to sit here as a commission and do design work for you. What we may encourage you to look closely at this and see if this is for the sake of the neighbors. The reality is in a 1,600 square foot house, they're not going to use the garage. Most people won't use the garage unless it's a rental property. They'll use it for storage and or their gym or so many things that we see here in Ocean Ridge. And we're trying to be good to the neighbors and not have on-street parking here, on an already crowded area. So thanks for listening to me about this, and I'd encourage you to see if there's a solution that you could do within the codes. Thank you.
I have just a quick,
Yes, please.
again, to compare my house to this, it's very similar, and this driveway is the same. The reason we have the landscaping there is because we couldn't get a variance because there's a manhole cover, so that it's grass there, so we just drive over the grass to park on this second spot. But this fence that's here on the side, on the west side, can that go back any? That's what we've done.
But then we wouldn't be able to get the car to fit in there. You're going to take back towards the house.
Yes. So you put a little extra driveway towards that way, and like you were saying, we pull one car in on an angle and one car in straight. It's ridiculous.
But if I'm hearing you right, as we pull the fence further back, it would be harder to maneuver in.
the fence further north.
Right. It gives us less room to maneuver out. As it goes further south, it's easier to pull out from the left.
Oh, it is easier, yeah, but you just gain a little bit that way. Again,
Right,
like you
no,
said,
in
just
terms of
we're
getting
asking.
2 cars in there, if I make that tighter, it makes it harder. It's, so if I push the fence as far forward as it can go, they can maneuver, making it rather usable 2 cars versus a tight 2 car.
And again, it's not our role to try to
Right.
do design work here, but
Right.
I think you're getting the essence that this is a concern.
Yeah.
And that I'm going to take your assurance that you're going to do your best to figure out a solution that, because the reality, whether they're doing, as Sydney does, driving over the landscaping, they're going to, practicality is going to dictate, not our design. And if you can make the design to match practicality, it's all the
To
better.
get the 2 cars out.
And fortunately, you're not code required for 3, so you can just make the space bigger and give people the opportunity. Dave?
I've got one observation, because I quite often walk down around Douglas and Seaview. There's a lot of on-street parking there on both of those streets right now. So it's logical to think not much is going to change. But the residents don't seem to mind it so much from my conversation with them, only if somebody is parking in front of their yard. That's an observation.
And I think it's correct. It's just, as we're putting new in, how we can solve some of these problems, all the better.
Well,
yeah,
that's, we've gone through that. Now, my one question is, you've got a pool, and nothing's been said, is it like a plunge pool, and it can't be very big?
Correct. It's very low. Something.
7 by 14.6.
I mean, it's pretty neat, but if the pool wasn't there, you could you pull the driveway over a little bit in that direction? You could have all kinds of parking, I suppose, because that's impervious.
Well, yes, if they didn't want a pool.
If they didn't want to put it. Okay, enough said.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we promised to let the public come back if there were any questions. So, sir, would you, and you might want to just stand up here, because this is a good opportunity to make sure the public's involved.
Richard Steer, 40 Ocean View Drive. With all due respect, I'd like to disagree with the assessment of the on-street parking. Ocean View and Douglas are both very narrow. We drive that road every day to come to our house at 40 Ocean View. It's a one-way street, and you have multiple large pickup trucks parked with their ends extending out into the street. If a garbage truck comes by, or an Amazon truck or FedEx truck comes by, there's no access. So my concerns are 2 things. It sounds like this is going to get approved. Access, 2 years, we're going to have to put up with construction trucks. What happens when we're trying to get home, or we have an emergency, we need to get out, and there are construction trucks that are blocking the area? And what is our recourse, maybe from a legal perspective, if there's damage to our property? If a construction truck knocks down our hedge, our tree, our mailbox, runs into one of our cars. And that's just not for me, it's for the neighbors as well. My concerns are those.
Yeah, and that's a legitimate concern. It's not one that this board can address, but it's part of the building permitting process. Right. And there have been cases that construction vehicles have to come, unload, and park elsewhere for safety purposes. And the police department is very aware of that. It may take some phone calls during the construction time to get the police to come clear the street, but that's a building permit and policing thing that we don't. But you're absolutely right. During construction, it's
concern
challenging.
Also is construction cleanup, because I've had to replace at least 4 or 5 tires based on picking up construction nails on our street, or at the Walgreens parking lot where they built recently the Woolbright, apartments. So to me, that's a major issue as well. It's cleanup after the construction. or during construction to make sure that we have, access, a clean street to work on. If there's damage to the street, does the town come in and fix that?
That's a question for the town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm asking that to be considered, if these construction trucks are damaging the street, which is very narrow, has very little clearance, it starts to tear it up, is the town going to come in and fix that for us? That's my question. Is there
Lynn,
an
do you
answer?
want to answer his question?
Ask the town.
Ask the town.
Yeah. We're the planning and zoning board. We're just talking about the application, not how things are enforced in the town, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you.
I will comment on that. The builder that more than likely will be building this has said that even when we went to look at the site for the first time, he's like, no, park up on the site. He goes, he's built in the neighborhood. And he said, I've had cars here for 3 minutes and the police are already there. So he said they are very strict on policing that. But that was just from what the contractor.
And clearly, when the first lot is built on, the second one will be available for parking.
Yeah,
The second house, we can.
Worry more about the second
The
house.
second one's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yes, sir.
In regards to theoretical and practical application, I think we need to be honest about this, about the parking situation, because if it's my understanding, you're not to have on-street parking overnight, is that correct? Anyone know that?
I don't think after 2 AM they're allowed.
So not overnight. So
Correct.
in a house that size, and again, we're really talking about 2 homes here.
Yeah.
To have one car and not have access to put another car in that driveway, because again, as this gentleman over here said, it is a one-way street. So even if you took out a pool, that car would have to make a 180-degree turn to pull in and park there. I think we need to address, the law says one thing, or the code says one thing, but the practicality of it. And on those streets, which are a lot smaller, I had the pleasure of living on Hersey Drive quite a few years ago, which is a much wider street. But now between my house and Pam's house across the street, it's a much closer distance. And as this gentleman said, you can't get an Amazon truck, a garbage truck next to each other side by side, let alone the landscaping trucks. Let alone we're gonna build one house where they'll at least have access to park their work vehicles next door at 34. But what happens when we start building 34? So the fact is, you want to squeeze a little pool in here, that's nice. You can, use it as a selling point, but the practicality of it for the neighbor that lives directly across the street, myself and this young lady back here, Leah, who's right across the street from it. It's not practical to try to put 15 pounds of house into a 10-pound lot. We can say, well, but the law says, you can go right to here. But if we all stand there and look at it, we go, yeah, it really doesn't work, but the law says we can do it. So I think we need to be practical in this application of putting these 2 homes next to each other. And there are a couple 2-story homes in that neighborhood. Don't get me wrong, this house is a beautiful home. But I don't know that the practicality of covering that entire lot with home, with what the law says the retention is, or how much water can drain, or this is what the survey says, it's not practical for that neighborhood and on that street. I just wanted to get that point. But I think we need to sharpen our pencils a little bit with what houses we're putting there, because in all honesty, this isn't for someone to move into that they're building their own home. This is strictly a financial project, and it's about dollars. So I think we could readjust the layouts of these homes, because you can't add more driveway, because the second home that we're not talking about is going to take up so much room that you can't spread out the driveway any further. So I think maybe we can kind of readdress those issues and look at it from a practical point of view, instead of just, this is what the law says, and after we build it, we're all just kind of SOL.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for the comments. With that, we will close. No? No, we have 2 more people, please. Come. Okay, and you have 2 emails. Thank you. And before you do, I want to say right now, so often we have these meetings and there's no one sitting here, and I'm shocked that neighbors don't show up. And I want to compliment you and your neighborhood for being here. And if it's taking a little more time for this commission, we applaud it, that you're participating in what happens. But, you know, and now please come forward.
Yes, hello. My name is Leah Dombrowski. I'm at 27, so I'm across the street. Oh man, I have a lot of questions, but I guess kind of coming back based on everything that was said today here. Just kind of taking some notes. We're saying that there's, you know, not enough space for parking. The driveways are too small. There's a lack of landscaping, so you have issues there. There's lack of drainage. There's issues there. There's potential impact to your septic system from tap roots, et cetera. There's an issue there. While we have 2 houses, not just one, so you do have the potential, right, to build one house. So why would you not address all these problems by addressing the problems and only building one house and remaining, or have that space remaining to actually solve all of your issues? Instead of setting a precedent to now have poor planning practices moving forward. Just a question, it's honestly a question to you, Rick. Let me know, like why?
First, a little background, and the town attorney can chime in. The role of this commission is to review to the town codes. So with, and we, if a design comes in here and if it's maximized to what the town codes allow, we have no purview to require more than what the town codes are. That's the town commission that sets those codes. You know, it's very unique in Ocean View. The same codes that apply elsewhere in town are shrunk down because Ocean View's history that is different. So then we have the ability to cajole. And that's what you've seen here. We've been encouraging the addition of another parking space. We've been encouraging the addition of some more landscaping. But frankly, if they refuse to take our suggestions and aren't sensitive to the neighbor, if they're building within the codes, we're limited. So that, if that answers your question of why we don't say, go ahead and build a 1-story house on the 2 lots, that's not a direction that we can give.
So I guess in terms of moving forward, right? I mean, you said it yourself. We're not gonna go backwards. We're moving forward. Why would we then set a precedent of installing new septic when the whole world in Florida is going septic to sewer? We have $126 million being spent in Miami-Dade County just to connect to septic or connect to sewer from septic. So why, as a town, would we invest in poor business practices for the city of Boynton Beach, for the town? Now, is the town going to be paying for all those connections, or are we residents going to be paying for those connections, the sewer? And now you have 2 more connections to sewer.
And the town has a septic to sewer commission and study group, and I'd encourage you to participate that and it's again not something that the Planning and Zoning Commission is engaged in.
Okay, but I guess so go ahead.
Yeah, I like your question. All of us here have septic. I don't like it, but it's a fact of life right now. But we can't delay projects because of the possibility that sewers will be part of our town. They'll probably be, Terry, you get the floor a lot. I'm speaking right now.
I didn't say anything.
Well, yeah, but you've kind of been aggressive today. It's kind of rubbed me wrong. Anyway, that said, I like what you're saying. I wish we could all be on sewer. It will come, but we can't delay a project for something that's coming in the future.
Okay, but what about current problems, like the power sags we're having? We're having voltage sags from FPL currently, and so the electrical infrastructure isn't adequate for our neighborhood. I'm having flickers all the time. Matt's having flickers, Lance is having flickers. We don't have the voltage So now we're having 2 additional houses. How is FPL gonna address that? And how is the town gonna make sure that we have power?
I'm sympathetic with everything you're saying, and frankly, one house there might be a good idea. But this project that's going forward meets the code. It's a difficult position. You're asking us to change a project when we have no real legal basis to do so.
I'm asking you to look into the engineering to make sure that it's feasible, which is your job.
No, it's not.
Is
It's
it
not.
not the
This
town
is not our
engineer?
job.
No,
So it's not the town commission, but is it not?
No,
the-
it is a town commission.
We're planning and zoning. here.
We're just planning and zoning.
We're saying, hey, your house looks pretty, but can you throw a little more landscape or what? That's really our, I'm sorry, but that's our function here,
That's our
right?
function.
Like, hey, I think this house looks nice, and does it fit? We're asking Corey, we're asking Manny and everybody, does it fit into the town code? Yes. Okay, we don't like it. Could you put another window here? Could you put a little more landscape? That's us here. So we can't fix, like, I got septic, I got problems with my septic. Everybody has a problem with a septic. My power goes out, my cable goes out, all those things, I have to just go to those people, so I'm sorry.
Is it not your job to coordinate with planning and engineering to make sure that these things are taken care of though?
No, it's the town as a whole, we are just like neighbors like you, just looking at the look and the style of the house there, really in the landscape to try to make sure it fits the community, but we're not like the judge and jury here. The town, like I said, we have town attorney, we got Corey, we got building department, we have Tara that's doing, we have all these people that check to make sure that the house fits into our town code. And that's all we can do is make sure that it fits the town code. Am I wrong, Dave? I don't know.
I do think it's an appropriate question for Tara as far as engineering and the power.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's something we can't speak
Well,
to.
let me just chime in as the town's attorney. What you've heard is correct. The review that's done here is to make sure it's to current code, but they also serve as an architectural review board. So what the chair has been explaining is this board, within its purview, may encourage a developer to add some more landscaping or to make some tweaks to the design that they think is more in fitting with the neighborhood and some realistic problems that they foresee. But if it's developed in plan to code, they are limited to applying the code. They can encourage additional things. Now, issues that you've brought up in terms of FPL, nothing the town can do about FPL. You'd have to go to FPL if you're seeing flickering or if you're concerned about is there enough service in this area. You have to go to FPL. We can't do anything about FPL. Other issues that have come up in terms of septic. We can't do anything about septic right now. It's through the county health department that deals with the septic. And until we have sewer available for homes to connect, we can't hold up projects legally to do that.
Now, what
So
about
that's the
drainage?
limitations. Drainage, we have our town engineer here. The town engineer, just like the town planner and our zoning official, at this stage, they do a preliminary review to make sure what the plans are at this current stage satisfy code. What then happens is they now have to go to the building division and submit construction plans. At the construction plan level, there is a secondary review where they do a double check to make sure all the calculations for both drainage, for the floor area ratio are to code. So at this stage, while the town engineer gets involved, there is more involvement until they get a building permit to actually build and construct. So the town engineer will make sure that drainage is consistent, again, with the town code. We are limited to the code, and if there's an issue that you have with the town's code, then the way to address that is come to a town commission meeting and speak to the town commission about your concerns about the town's code.
So what about the impact to the surrounding neighborhood is not within the code?
This board takes those considerations, and in some of the comments you heard today, they mention that to the developer oftentimes. But again, if the plans are to code, they have no legal ability to ask someone to do something beyond code. So if they are only required to have one off-street parking space, we can't require more. We can encourage them to consider the neighbors, to consider, the troubles specifically in this neighborhood. Can't require more by law.
So when do you have, I guess, input for code revisions? For example, FEMA flood maps are getting updated. You have different storm floods all the time. What used to be a 100-year flood is now happening every year. When does that code get updated to make sure that the neighborhood's protected?
Anytime you want, you can come to a town commission meeting and make your comments to the town commission. They'll consider it, and if they give direction to the town manager, to town staff, or myself, then we prepare a revision to the code.
And workshops.
Correct.
We about twice annually have a workshop where this board and the town commission meet to talk about these kind of practical issues. And they're posted when they occur, so it's on the town website. And I think all the questions you're asking we've all asked as neighbors when we've had construction projects in our neighborhood. And part of this is the compromises that we've all made to live in a beach community, and a beach community without, on septic, a beach community with some low-lying areas and drainage issues. But I think we've, for the most part, are happy with the choice we've made to live in Ocean Ridge. So.
And I'd agree. I guess I just have one final question, because Stephen, Margaret, you mentioned this is the direction we're going, right? So the direction is having outside developers come and build houses and live in other countries and then lose the hometown community feel. That's the direction we're going?
I'm just saying that everything's changing, and I don't know the elevation of your house or the other houses on the street, but water's rising. We have to build all these houses way taller now. If you look at things, most of these houses can be hard to insure over time. If you have a low house, you're not going to be able to insure your house at some point. You have no choice but to probably build a new house. Like, everything changes in the world here. We got cell phones, people are building things, people are going, we have to go higher because of the seawater. We have streets over here in Ocean Ridge. I don't know your particular street, but it sounds like you have a flood problem where they have to go drain the water out. We have roads, we have houses over on the next island. They're sitting there in the streets at 1.8 feet. The neighbor's house is at 3 or 4 feet, and the new house has to be built at 10 feet. And that house at 3 or 4 feet isn't going to be insurable at some point. So it's just progress here, and they're going to have to. Everybody's going to have to get through it all. But there's not much else to do can't stop developers from other countries. Can't stop all these things. It's their legal right to buy the land unless you say you can't buy it. I think I don't know what else to say. Sorry.
Maybe that's a code issue.
Yeah, thanks for your time and your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this is, all right, we'll take 2 more and that's it. I've been generous with the time. We don't normally do this, but I think we don't normally review Ocean View and it's very unique. So please, sir.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your time. I definitely appreciate all of you raising questions and concerns. Very important to all of us. My name is Lance Shuttler and I live at 36 Ocean View, right next to the open lot. I'm aware that your role is simply to review codes, look at that and assess and decide from there. My background is health science and public health. I'm aware that you guys are not able to really make decisions based off of this, but it should be brought up and stated so that it is aware and on the record. You guys may or may not know this, but that spot there is a huge echo chamber, and the noise, though Ocean Ridge in general, it's small streets, that place specifically is incredibly loud. And if you listen to the garbage trucks or any of these trucks that come by, you'll know exactly what I mean. If you haven't heard it, I would highly encourage you to listen to it. It is extremely disruptive. Now, if that would happen where we're going to be listening to that for 2 years, or if we're doing 2 lots for 4 or 5 years, Is that realistic for us to have a quality of life during that time? No, it's not. You know, the amount of traffic that comes through on that one way is quite a bit. And, you know, I know that we've talked about this before, but with that brings a lot of congestion, and what Richard said, it's how do we get to our home? If you're stuck behind an Amazon guy, it can take me anywhere literally from 5 to 7 minutes to get home, just coming in that loop. Same with other trucks or vehicles that are in there. Obviously, there's only a few of us that even live here in this, and though we've all dealt with construction and it's a nuisance for sure, we're all aware of that. This is a unique spot, as we know. It's got special, codes, and the tightness of this spot, again, cannot be reiterated enough. It's so small there, not only the road, but the noise level that would ensue. Most of us that live there either work from home or are retired, and even just when the construction or landscaping is coming by, most of the time, and I know most of the people many of the people that live there have to leave. We all are aware of that. But imagine having to do that 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week for 2 to 4 to 5 years. It's not realistic. Another thing too with construction, and this is, you know, aware in public health, but it's not as aware as it should be, which is PFAS. These are toxic substances that do always get kicked up in construction. Polyfluoroalkyl substances, these are known as forever chemicals, highly carcinogenic. We will all be exposed to that, regardless of any mitigation that is
Your time is passed. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you all, and please just keep in mind that you're dealing with real lives here, and not just codes and names and dates and letters on paper. Like, all of our lives will be affected if this moves forward.
Thank you. And you know that those of you sit up here are your neighbors. All Ocean Ridge residents.
Yep.
We have all experienced similar constructions in our neighborhood, and it's part of what comes with living in a desirable place. And thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes. If you can be brief, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. My name is Julia Steer, and I live at 40 Ocean View. I think it's 32 the first time I was nervous. But we live in a house, a beach bungalow that was built in 1941, and we've restored it. And when we first bought the house, coming from the west, I thought I was moving to a slum. And now the slum has been beautifully restored, and it's a lovely neighborhood. We've never had any flooding from a house built in 1941. So I think the argument that the sea is rising, so our skyline has to be rising, is not a valid argument at all. And I think everyone needs to be aware of their carbon footprint that they're leaving for the children and the grandchildren. So taller is not necessarily better, and newer is not necessarily better than old either. You need to learn your lessons from the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
And then Kelly, you have 2 comments to read in the record?
Yes. Okay, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for the link you sent me to understand more about the proposed home plans for the property just behind my back wall at 16 Tropical. I would have had an objection if the pool had been placed at the back of the home, as the pool noise would have been reverberating between the back walls of each home. Annoying. Of course, the better solution would be for P&Z and Ocean Ridge to not approve this particular plan and opt for a single home to be built on this entire piece of open land. I dislike the added congestion that would occur if 2 homes are built on this parcel. The street is already one way, which tells you a lot about how it's already being used. I realize 2 homes would bring in more taxes to the town and state, but at what kind of sacrifice for all the people who already occupy the street? Please, everybody in charge, consider my honest suggestion. Patricia Crop. The next one was kind of already addressed by Matthew, but it's from Pam Shudlick. I have concerns about flood control. I want confirmation from the town and the builder that adequate drainage is being planned for runoff. The lot used to be 6,500 square foot of grass that would absorb rain. Now that the lot has been divided into two 50-foot lots and presumable two houses, I'm concerned where the rainwater will go because the plans for this house cover over 50% of the lot plus pool, patio, driveway, and drain field. The street drain that is located between 24 and 26 Ocean View Drive that carries rainwater to the tropical drive holding tank before pumped out to Intercoastal or wherever is hardly adequate now. This new construction is going to put more rainwater in the street. Could you address that? Follow-up question about elevation and fill. How much will property be raised and is back retaining wall remaining in place? What about the east side of the property? Is there a retaining wall there? From Pam Shedlick.
Thank you. I think we addressed all those questions previously. With that, we will close the quasi-judicial hearing. The commissioners do have an opportunity now to speak to anything if we're not already, haven't already said that. Shields, we'll start with you.
Good, thank you.
Sydney?
I'm good. Thank you.
Dave?
I respect the comments that everybody brought forward to us. I wish there was a better way of answering your questions, but I can't, unless the town commission wants to stand in the way of it, I don't think we have anything we can do.
I basically agree with what you're saying, and I understand these, everybody's concerned here, so, but not much to do. It's legal.
No. Good. Is there anything from the town staff that needs to be added here? Okay, well, then we're ready to entertain a motion. If you don't mind, I'll make the motion since I've been kind of the blabbermouth today. And make a motion for approval. The plans conditioned on staff comment with a strong encouragement to look at the off-street parking issue and make best efforts to come up with a solution for the sake of the neighborhood.
Second.
Third.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for a good presentation. And neighbors, thank you for being here. It's good to get the participation.
Appreciate it.
Okay. It's Ocean View.
Terry, I still love you.
He yelled at me, but I still like him.
Okay, we are still have two other agenda items listed here. And I want to be conscious of our other people here on this that have didn't expect to spend their morning here. Are these staff items, are these things that need to be addressed this meeting, or can they be deferred to our next meeting?
They were asked by the commission to be put on our agenda.
Okay. Who's leading the discussion on these items from staff?
Mr. Chair, I can lead the one on the waiver of permit fees. And fairly quickly, fairly short, I believe. If not, I think we could defer it. But in the town's code, section 67-58 regarding, you should have this in front of you. I think Kelly printed out a copy for everybody to have. It deals with building permit fees. And subsection C of that is specific to if you begin construction without obtaining the necessary building permits. And the language there is you have to pay double the permit fee plus $200 if the cost of the work is equal to or less than $5,000, and then 4 times the permit fee if the cost of the work is more than $5,000. So I think obviously if for most building permits, the cost of the work is going to be over $5,000. So if you violate this, your permit fee is 4 times. And this is set by code, so there's no deviation to this. What has happened over time, the next subsection D really addresses the situation where someone plans to do something and gets a building permit and then decides not to pursue the project. And that section really deals with how the town may be able to refund some of their money. Under subsection D, there's a provision to allow the town commission to refund 100% depending on the circumstances and if the request is made within 30 days. So over time, what has happened is subsection D1 has now become applicable to this entire section. So even though the town commission sets forth a building permit fee schedule, you will have people coming in asking for different waivers of their building permit fees, and particularly subsection C, which was really supposed to set forth a penalty provision if you do work without permits. It seems over time, though, that the 4 times the fee for your first time offense seems a little bit excessive. So in talking with the town commission and some of the town commissioners, we wanted to bring this to your attention and suggest, maybe tweaking this. What I would like to do, quite frankly, is clean it up and create a penalty provision that if you do work without permits and it's your first time offense, it's 2 times your permit fee across the board, whether your project's $1,000 or whether your project's $100,000. And then if it's a second offense, then it's more. If it's a third offense, it's more, and so forth and so on, so that there's a scale of penalties. And that's what you see is a little bit more commonplace in other cities and counties in Florida in terms of how they penalize someone who does work without permits. Keep in mind too that we will typically go after them through code compliance, which is called community standards here. And so that if they don't come in and get those permits, there may also be a fine accruing against the property owner until they come in and get the permits. So we have different ways of enforcing it, but this would set forth a standard that if it's your first offense, it's 2 times your permit fee, no matter how much it is. The other recommendation that I have is that the only time that the commission would ever get involved in this is an extreme situation under subsection D, and that's the way I believe it's currently written. I would recommend getting rid of that completely, because one of the issues for the town commission is to really focus on policy matters and not get into individual property owner issues. And so my recommendation would be that we set forth what we agree as would be the amount to refund or not refund, and that's it. You get it or you don't get it, and the request to go before town commission is eliminated so that they don't get involved in those individual disputes. If you're agreeable to that, I will bring this back in a draft format for an ordinance, and obviously we can have further discussion at that time and make further tweaks. But that's what, based on our conversations with the town commissioners, I think would be a better way to clean this up.
Any thoughts or comments?
I agree.
Yeah,
I think
makes
I got
sense.
the idea of all this.
Right.
Building permits, I got the idea. So, I think it's a little rough, over, over the way they have it here.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll draft the ordinance and we'll bring it back for our next meeting. So you'll see it more of a finished, format. And then if you have further comments or concerns at that point, we can always tweak the ordinance at that point.
Is this something, sorry, this is just like a side question. Is this something that's on the building permits? Like when you fill it out, it says?
No, but I
think that
don't know
might
if
be.
it's in the handbook. I don't
Okay.
know, because once you get the handbook, usually you're in compliance. So,
Right.
most, I think, building contractors know that there's going to be a penalty if you do work without a permit when you need to.
Right.
But we can
Could be
certainly
you
look
as
at.
a homeowner doing, but it could be you as a homeowner doing something in your home. I mean,
Right.
am I right? Like, do you
Absolutely.
think that you don't need a permit? Like people, and then boom, they get caught doing something and they're in some, they're already in a world of crap because they have to go figure out how to get the permit, everything else. But I don't know how it works. Like, let's say your air conditioning dies on a Friday night. You have a guy put in the air conditioning Saturday and they were to catch you doing the air conditioning because you bought air conditioning. I don't know if that goes retro or what happens, like air
Sure.
conditioning, water heater and things like that.
There are exceptions for
Oh, there is
emergencies.
exception. Okay, there's
Yeah.
exception.
Yeah.
But yeah, people make mistakes. So.
Right. I would say 95% of the time, it's contractors, it's not homeowners.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much cheating is there today? Just in general.
There is actually quite a bit.
So I do think there need to be some stringent penalties. I mean,
Agreed.
this is, the 4 times is crazy, but it keeps, there's a lot of cheating still goes on.
Right. So I was thinking with a second offense, then it's gonna be triple, third offense, even more.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, great.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then the same question about the discussion of roof heights. Is it something that can be deferred to the next, or do we need to? It is 10:30. Yes.
What I can do is address this. We do know that there's one project where they're looking to do this, and the basic problem is, as you may recall, because we went through this, it used to be one roof in Ocean Ridge. It had to be pitched, I think it's 412.
Yes.
412. Then we decided, okay, we're gonna start allowing flat roofs. So now you can have a flat roof, or you can have a pitched roof. We have a project that's looking to do an in-between, not completely flat and not pitched to 412. So the question becomes, should we open up to our code to allow for some deviation between a flat and a pitch?
I think I'm not this old, but the thinking of having the pitch is that we didn't want to look like a community of tract homes with low pitch that were built ranch homes in the 60s. Maybe that's changed, but still I associate low pitched roofs as kind of lesser homes. And that's different than a flat roofed house and I personally, if I saw the drawing, I might view differently, but personally, I like it the way we have it. Either you decide whether you're fish or fowl. You go, oh, there we have it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to elaborate a little bit, the architect for a proposed new home that will come in at some point in the future is desirous of going to a 3 and 12 pitch. And so the graphics that are included in the staff report and that are shown on the screen are from that architect, showing the conceptual elevation of the home at a 4 and 12 and at a 3 and 12. And then there are a couple other examples of a 3 and 12 pitch on a couple subsequent slides. They do appear to be, at least in some ways, larger homes in terms of their horizontal mass. So their feeling was that we think this is a nicer look at 3 and 12 than a 4 and 12. And when we had the discussion with them, looking at it, as Christie said, from the standpoint of the code, the minimum we can go on a slope roof is a 4 and 12. You can go less than that, but then you're a flat roof and you have to design it as a flat roof with a parapet. So that's really the background. And I couldn't tell you that that's the home that they're going to come in with, but that's the elevation that they provided to us as what they are considering at this point. So entirely for your discussion and input.
And if we chose to limit it, could we limit it just on single-story houses? Because I think you start doing that kind of pitch on a 2-story house and it's going to look bizarre.
Scroll down, there's one on a 2-story house. Up high, right there, that one's 2-story and it's got that similar look to it there. I don't know, it's really, someone, whoever's doing this plan on the house, if you want to go back to it, spending a lot of money. It's a really cool looking house and it's a little different for our area, but it's really cool looking house to have that. And my question is on this pitch issue, excuse me, what about when you got a 412 pitch going down to a 212, like the, there's, with the little Asian style roof. I think there was a problem with that even where they were saying, oh, we don't have 412 the whole way across the whole roof. That's almost when we had a flat roof issue. So there's architecture design. I think people are spending a lot of money to build these houses, and it's not like they're just doing a 312 pitch to save money like we did back in the day. They're doing it because it's their architectural design of their home. They want that. That's my personal.
Yeah, and I've seen a number of homes built like this out west, and they're very attractive and very, like this guy's doing a kind of cool design, very attractive. Remember, is this on the 3 lots that he owns or the 2 lots, guys?
I think he's on the 2.
2, excuse me?
2 of the 3.
2 of the 3. I mean, listen, I walk by this place every day. I mean, I gotta tell you something, this would be a beautiful thing to have there. Keep it low, keep the neighbors across the street so they're not looking at a large vertical structure. But I think it's really attractive, and we should encourage more of this. Single story, good looking homes like this, right?
Do we have any latitude without a code change?
Yeah, that was my question. Like, can they apply for a variance? I know it's not a hardship, but like,
you would
there's no like
qualify for
aesthetic
variance. No, it would need
variance.
to be a code change. And if, at least from my perspective, the attorney may disagree with me, but I think from my perspective, this is purely a local option. If you wanted to allow a 3 and 12 on only a 1-story, I think you could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, good, she's nodding. Not shaking.
That allows us to kind of wade into the pool at the shallow end.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think, one thing that we could do, which may be the easiest way to address a pitch like this, that's less than something that's currently in the code, would be perhaps to allow it by special exception before this board.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Because then you could look at each design like you do in your architectural review and then determine whether you think, the lesser pitch is appropriate.
I agree. Like on this lot, I think it's beautiful. But like, if you put it on the lot in Ocean View, is that going to be the same aesthetic?
And I really like encouraging single stories.
And also,
because we were a town of single stories at one time. Yeah. And it's changed a lot.
And one question I have, it looks okay to me, and people should be able to build what they want to build, but the overhang on the roof on either side is pretty dramatic. Don't we have some limitation on the size of the soffit, I guess?
That might just be the rendering.
Allowed maximum 3 feet.
3 feet overhang, because that looks like it's about 20 feet.
It might just be the rendering.
Move the house in, if you move the house in smaller, I think it's okay because the house, like the house isn't sitting, we have to check that. I don't know the setbacks, but let's just say we have a 15-foot setback plus 3-foot overhang, which would give you your soffit would go hang to like a 12-foot. If you want to squish your house and have overhang or covered patio on the side, as long as it's not going past the, past the setback if they're, and that's all up to Manny to figure out when they bring the house in, but they're not allowed to put the overhang out to the, like almost to the property line, I guess you would say there.
Do we want to put overhang as a special exception in here too? But it would clearly mean that the overhang doesn't go any closer to the property line than our current codes allow it.
Well, it wouldn't allow it anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't allow it because he's already stopped it.
But we don't see enough detail to really know that.
Yeah.
do we? At this point, we're only being asked about the roof line.
Right.
I think we should
Let's
do.
just stay
And then with the
roof
next
line.
step, they can bring something else in and we can look at that.
Yeah, I agree.
Special exception.
Is that's the consensus?
Yeah.
Special exception, 1 story. Okay. Thank you. Do we have anything else on the agenda? If not, let's
Can I
take a
do
motion.
something real quick?
Oh, one
I
thing.
just want to remind you guys about the meetings, with the absenteeism of just not being available. We put the meetings out in the very beginning of the year. And they're posted online, they're on the website, on the calendar, and I put them on every agenda. And I really need you guys to watch those dates and not schedule stuff because not having people here is really hard. If you guys want to consider doing only so many meetings a year, that's something I guess you have to take with the commission.
Can we put Zoom meetings back on as a potential? Because like, I know it's not everyone's favorite, but like I work from home all the time. Everything I do for Fortune 500 companies from home on Zoom. And I know it's because we're an appointed board, so I don't know what the Florida law is. I think that maybe the town commission can't, but if we could, like that would help. Like I have to spend a lot of time in New York this winter, so I know the next 3 months I won't be here.
The other thing is that this is really the purpose of our alternates, and
yes,
we need
And that's
the
fine.
town not to, the commission not to appoint alternates that aren't available. I mean,
You can't commit.
yeah.
Right.
If they can't commit and, maybe a little phone call with the alternates. I know you can't make them resign, but.
I just shouldn't have to go after each meeting
You
to
shouldn't.
find who can be there, and try to fight somebody, get them there. When
Again,
everybody
have me
knows
not
the
show up.
meeting's
Then.
an
Me not show up.
She's saying that-
She's talking to you, Steve.
It's not my fault.
No, I'll take part of the blame because you called me last night and I thought for certain I had said a long time ago I was coming.
Yeah, because
So,
everybody knows the dates. I mean, it's
everybody
not
does.
something we hide unless you guys physically, say at a meeting, we're changing this date. The dates have stayed the same the entire year. And we set them in advance and I've given them all to you. So I don't know what else to do. I shouldn't have to chase people down. You guys should have to be able to let me know.
yes, exactly.
There's not gonna be a quorum.
but at least we know we're needed.
Yes, very much so. It's been a quite active year.
Yeah. Good news is that in the 5.5 years I've been on this commission, this is the first time this has happened. So hopefully won't occur again. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for.
We have had some close calls.
It's a good statistic though.
Thank you.
That works.
Right, with that, a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our working people.